what's life without rice? I mean, rice is to us like potato is to the Germans. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Please like this video by giving this video a thumbs up. Click the thumbs up button below. It really helps with the promotion and the suggestion of this video to other people who might be interested. Thank you. Anyway, so welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about my experience living as a black person in Indonesia, an African person to be specific. So for those that don't know, I lived in Indonesia for a while, and I think, yeah, I lived there long enough to be able to share my experience. If you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe to the channel, click the red button below. And if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me. It's at Wale O Chronicles on Instagram. Now let's get into the crux of the video. I don't have the Rona, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the positive things first before I get into the not so positive things. The first positive thing I'm going to talk about is visa application process. So compared to for many of us from African countries and Nigeria to be specific, because I'm from Nigeria, we know how the visa application process is. It's really crazy. Like sometimes it can take up like weeks or months for you to get a response from the embassy, depending on what country you want. Experience in Indonesia, like I didn't really have a problem with visa application process. It was quite straight to the point and like straightforward. Within, I think when I was applying for my Singapore visa, within 5 days or less, it was out, and I was like, and even Malaysia, when I was applying for my Malaysian visa, Singapore, and what other country, like it was within a matter of days, and I was so shocked. I was like, so visa application process can be so easy. Then why do they always make it such a hassle, such a headache in Nigeria? I have no idea why. But the first thing I'm going to tell you is that the visa application process is going to be way easier. Well, that's my personal experience anyway. The second point is the food. If you're coming from an African country where you guys, there's a lot of chili and spiciness in your cuisine, you're not gonna have a problem in Indonesia because the food is on point. I'm an absolute foodie. I love food so much, and the food is really good. There's a lot of rice. I mean, what's life without rice? I mean, rice is to us like potato is to the Germans. Did I just say that? Sorry. Anyway, rice is big, so you can find rice. You can always find good cuisine and also like substitutes for your food. So there's okra there. It's a tropical country, so you would find a lot of things that you can use in to cook your food. Yeah, you get the point. Food is not going to be a problem. The next positive thing I'm going to talk about is the people. So generally, the people in Indonesia, anyway, that's my experience anyway, are pretty friendly. They're very curious. They will ask you 1,000,001 questions. And there is this sense of communal thingy. So like the sense of privacy and individuality is not so big there. So people would ask you very personal and private questions without thinking it's weird. But it's not out of a sense of being nosy. It's just a sense of curiosity. They're really curious to know where you're from and stuff like that. So now let's get into the not so nice part that I'm sure everybody wants to hear. First of all, I mean, I know in every being black in a certain country video, we always talk about the stares. So, and it's a big thing in Southeast Asia generally. I mean, in any country where you're the minority, I think you will get stared at. So that's pretty normal. So you will really get stared at, especially, I don't know if it's any better in the outer, like the non-cosmopolitan areas, like in the countryside. But I think it's pretty much the same whether in the city center or outside the city center or in some place in Aceh. I've never been to Aceh, but I just always, when I think about the farthest place in Indonesia, I think about Aceh in the northern part. So yeah, you will really get stared at because I'm sure they've really not seen people like us a lot. And I think the staring, I did not get any sense of antagonism or that. again, this is my personal experience. I don't know what other people's experiences are like, but the stairs are more, for me, I look at it as more of curiosity. Um, One time I went to Bogor, and Bogor is not Jakarta. Oh, did I say I lived in the capital city, Jakarta, and just to be specific? Anyway, I went to Bogor, and like when I got out of the train, like people were just looking at me, like staring at me. I'm like, Oprah Winfrey, Rihanna. I was like, thank you, thank you. I wish. Anyway, they will stare at you a lot. The next point is that as soon as you arrive at the airport, if you hold an African passport, you better believe they're going to give you some special treatment in a not so wonderful way. So they would either ask you to step out of the line. This happened to me a couple of times, or like ask you special questions that they're not asking other people with other passports, and like either like put your luggage, maybe they're choosing people randomly, then they will randomly choose you and put your luggage through extra check. This has happened to me, especially when I'm traveling by myself. Happened to me quite frequently, so you should just be aware of that. If you hold an African passport, this is going to happen to you. Well, it happened to me a couple of times. Another thing similar to this I'm going to talk about is the different treatment I noticed between black people of African origin and black people of American origin. So African Americans or any black person that holds a non-African passport or that sounds not very African. There is a, I have to say, there is a difference between the treatment. So like for me, yeah, I think for me, I don't know when I speak, I don't know what people term the African accent, because there is nothing like an African accent. Nigerians sound different from Kenyans. Kenyans sound different from South Africans. South Africans sound different from Moroccans and Egyptians. So there is no African accent. I'm just putting it out there to educate the people that don't know. So for me, for me it wasn't more, it was more of, because when I speak, they're like, you don't have an African accent. I don't know what that means. I think I sound like a Nigerian person. Anyway, so when I bring out my passport, that's when I get the treatment. But I noticed, like, for some people, like the one of the ladies that used to help me braid my hair, she would say like, oh, I remember this story. A friend told me this story. So like she said her sisters came to visit her in Jakarta, and they sounded Nigerian, and they were talking to each other, and you know how we can be like laughing, and they were talking to each other, and then when they heard them talking, of course they dragged them out of the queue, like, okay, come, please come out of the queue. And then unfortunately for the airport officials, like when they were like, okay, so where are you from, they asked for their passport, and they brought out the passport, they're from the UK. Ouch. So they could not give them the extra treatment because they didn't need a visa and all that. They just waltzed through. I was like, serve you right. Anyway, so I'm just saying, like, apart from the airport, in other places too, like if you sound or look African, I don't even know if there is a difference. I guess if you have braids opposed to if you have weaves or wigs, I don't know, but there is a difference between the treatments that African looking people with African passports get, and the difference between non-African, how do I even categorize that, African Americans or Africans with foreign passports. That's pretty much it. This is a very controversial topic, so I'm just gonna stop here. So the next related thing I'm going to talk about is the taxi people at the airport. We're still at the airport. We're still at the airport. So if you look like me, you're going to get special treatment from those taxi drivers. Usually they don't want to pick you up. I don't know why, but usually they don't want to pick you up or take you wherever for some reason. I don't know. Weird. Anyway, that just happens. I'm just going to stop there. I think the best thing that would happen to you is, like, when you're arriving at the airport, just arrange a pickup before you arrive so you don't have to deal with all that. And because of the language barrier, you're really going to find it difficult to actually communicate, because English is not very widely spoken in Indonesia. Maybe in the capital and this urban areas, but even in the urban areas, it's not a very big, highly spoken language, which is understandable. It's not an English speaking country. Anyway, The taxi drivers at the airport are going to give you attitude, so just prepare yourself. Book your airport pickup before you get to the airport. Do yourself a favor. The next point is the limited access to hair care products. So if you're of African origin, you already know like our hair is special, the afro, the kinkiness, the curliness, everything. So you are not going to get hair care products. So stock up when you're coming. Stock up with your Shea Moisture, with your Cantu, with your deep conditioners, with your shampoo, with your wigs. Stock up because you will not get it. It's very difficult to come by. And ordering things on Amazon is just an absolute disaster. Save yourself the stress, because I mean, the custom charges you're going to get, it's just not worth it. So anytime you're coming, just get your stuff when you're coming. And related to the hair care stuff is also that in my experience, I couldn't really find anyone to really take care of my hair properly, except the braiding lady. The braiding lady was really good, but generally, like if you want to get a weave installed, I struggled for so long to find someone, and when I found someone, it was an absolute disaster. Like, you know, those olden days saloon women that will make the cornrows so tight, like, you know, give you a facelift, just because they're doing cornrows for you. Was really, really terrible. I tried it twice. It wasn't a really good experience. So I would say you either come prepared with your wigs, or learn to do your hair by yourself, or just braid your hair, which you cannot braid your hair every time. The braiding lady was good though. The final thing I'm going to talk about is the limited access to actual African food. So they have some African supermarkets there, but they're not really as stocked up as I was expecting them to be. And you can always find substitutes, like you can find things like plantain, beans, okra, and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the main stuff, like dried fish, or yeah, there's some dried fish, but it's kind of different to what we are used to. You can always substitute, but you will not find the actual original things. And one of the most difficult things for me to find was palm oil. And considering that Indonesia is one of the largest producers of palm oil in the whole world, that was a bit strange, but they don't have it. So the African stores you will go to, most of the time the palm oil is really, really diluted. I think they always mix it with a bit of sunflower oil, or one of those clear oils, because the substance of the palm oil is very different. So I think that's about it from my personal experience living in Indonesia. Have you lived in any country in Southeast Asia? Is there any similarity to what I've spoken about in your experience there? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one.